Well, good morning. I want to welcome you to this morning's Hour of Power, and this is our last one of the year. So, welcome. Um, the Portsmouth, Ohio Chamber of Commerce, the Maysville, Kentucky Chamber, the Grayson Chamber, the Adams County Chamber, and the Ashland Alliance proudly sponsor these. And what that means is they just put the information out and put out the invitations. I'm excited this morning to announce next year's series, and we'll be sending that information out shortly, probably within the next week. If you've attended one of these last year, you'll be getting the announcement, and I'll also put it in my weekly newsletter. But we've got 12 new topics and one a month, the last Wednesday of every month next year. So we're going to continue on. These have been very popular and very successful. But today we're talking about celebrating progress, the joy of pursuing excellence instead of perfection. So I want to start today off with an intriguing question. What do you believe is a higher standard? Is it perfection or is it excellence? Isn't that an interesting thought? I want you to give that some thought because we're going to be looking today at the contrast of those two things. I am Dave Beam. I've been married for 39 years to Connie. I have three sons, Michael, Aaron, and Nathan, a host of grandchildren. I've been a business leader for over 20 years, leadership coach. I'm also a certified biblical counselor, and I have a passion to help people. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get to the topic today. I always start off with the rules of the game. So let's talk about the topic that we're coming to. We're going to talk about excellence as a goal versus perfection as a goal. So this would be for you personally. It would also be if you're a leader or a manager in a team. Which is the better, most effective approach, the best mindset? An excellence mindset or a perfection mindset? That's what we're going to be talking about today. What I want you is to give me 4 agreements here. I want you to own it. That means you're not going to abdicate this to a blame or an excuse or just deny that this is important. You're going to be fully present. You're going to participate 100%. If it was me on the other side of this video, I would be pulling out a pen and a paper just to take some notes, to write down those little blinding flashes of the obvious that might enter in my mind, the thoughts that I have, so I'll have something to review later on. Dropping the I know, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge today. I want you to set aside your preconceived notions and ideas just for this time together and just be open-minded. And finally, let's not be too heavy. Let's have some fun. You know, when you're in a fun mindset and you're in a curious mindset and you're not all stuffy with all your knowledge, but you're setting all that aside and you're participating 100% and you're owning it, that's when you transform. That's when you truly grow and change. So that's why I have those rules of the game. So I'll give you a moment just to consider those 4 rules, to embrace those, and then we'll move forward here. Okay. What's really cool about today, this is going to be a little different today if you've joined me in the past. We're going to have one chart, and everything is going to be on this chart. So it's going to be full of a lot of words, but we're not going to be switching charts. We're going to be adding to this chart. So the first thing I want you to consider is excellence. Excellence. What does it mean? We'll be talking about the definitions here in a minute. Versus mediocrity and perfection. So look at that maybe as a road, and the road is excellence. And one ditch on the side is being a perfectionist, And the other ditch on the other side is being mediocre. These are concepts today. These are mindsets today. And then we'll talk about some practical questions at the end of today of how to apply this. So we're going to get real practical later on, but this is a real mindset presentation today. So let's start off with some definitions. To be mediocre means to accept the status quo, to kind of do things halfway, not really to care that much, just be okay to be okay, get along, be a C student, C plus maybe. Perfection, on the other hand, the goal of perfectionist is to finish without flaw, to do things without a mistake, to be pristine and perfect in everything. And then the definition of being excellent, it's a practice to rise above, to improve, to always do better, to always do your best. Your best may not be perfect. It's looking more at direction and not perfection. So I want you to think about those three words again and get that kind of in your mind. And I want you to also consider something for yourself right now. Do you consider yourself overall to be a mediocre person in your mindset? You just kind of accept things the way they are. You don't really try to improve too much. You just kind of go along to get along. You kind of accept the status quo. That's one way to live. That's one way to think. Or would you consider yourself a perfectionist? That you're really not happy until you get it right, completely right, 100% right. You're a very picky person. You're a very precise person, almost OCD. You like everything to be finished, completed, and without error or mistake. And you really find that your happiness is kind of held hostage to that. You really are not happy. You're not happy. You're not relaxed or content until everything is in its place and perfect. Or do you carry that excellent mindset, which means I'm going to pursue rising above where I've been. I'm going to grow. I'm going to progress. I'm not going to be satisfied with just being status quo and just staying the same. I want to be alive. I want to be improving. I want to be living. I want to be getting better. I'm not a perfectionist. I realize that I'm a work in progress and that I do make mistakes, and the mistakes aren't bad, that I can learn from them. So I can be content and joyful and enjoy the journey. I don't have to be at the perfect destination to be relaxed and to feel good. So those are the three different mindsets that we're considering today. And we've looked at those definitions. Mediocre is accepting the status quo, kind of going halfway up the mountain. That, in fact, is the source of the word, is halfway up. Excellent is rising above. And perfect is finishing. Perfection is completion. Perfection is flawless completion without mistake or error. So I want you to get the sense of the three concepts. Okay, let's move on to this next. We're going to look at how these manifest, how these mindsets show up. A person who is mediocre is resigned. They have given up. They've caved to past performance. They dictate the way they judge and view themselves based on their past. I've never been very good at this. I'll probably never get that much better. It's a little bit of an Eeyore, kind of a little bit of a pessimism, and kind of just a little bit of a victim to past thinking, to past performance. Oh, I might try occasionally to do a little better, but I'll probably fail. That's the mediocre approach. A lot of people are there today. Let's look at the perfectionistic approach. I want a perfect future. I want everything to be exactly right. And I'm going to strive and work hard for that. I'm going to idealize the future, and I'm not going to go for anything less than perfect. And then let's think about how that excellence manifests. This is the person who is committed to acting in the present. This person has made a commitment not to just stay status quo, not just to do things halfway, but to do things well. And they define well as improvement, as learning, as progressing. They don't define excellence as perfect. The perfectionist mindset is until they have the idealistic future, till they reach all their goals and complete all their goals and finish everything on their plate and finish empty of their inbox, they're not happy. They're not, they connect their happiness to perfection. An excellent person says, I'm not going to be satisfied with mediocre. I want to improve and get better. I'm committed to doing today better than yesterday, but I don't have to be at the end of the road and the destination to relax and to enjoy and to appreciate what's going on. Hope you see the three different ways those three things manifest. These are three different ways of thinking, three different ways of leading, three different ways of living life. Let's now look at the focus. The focus. The mediocre mindset person focuses on the past. In fact, they're almost imprisoned or captured by the past. They're paralyzed by their past. And they kind of get into a coasting mindset because they feel defeated. And they look at their past and they look at what they haven't done and they look at their mediocrity, and it kind of paralyzes them. Now, I'm kind of stereotyping this, but this is for you to help yourself. And if you lead a team, to think about your team. Do they think kind of that way? Is that the mindset? A perfect mindset is a future-oriented person. They're always looking for the outcome. And what the emotion that goes with that, the focus that goes on that is kind of an anxiety and a wrestling and a striving and a working hard and never resting. The perfectionist is never at rest. They're always striving to that illustrious, perfect state. And it's always a future focus. I'll be happy when I get this done. I'll be happy when this is complete. I'll be happy when I'm perfect. I'll be happy when I no longer make mistakes. It's an anxious wrestling and striving versus the mediocre person who is just paralyzed and coasting and given up. That middle road excellence is a present person. Again, we said before, they're committed to present action. They're progressive. They're not wrestling like a perfectionist, but they're dancing. They're learning through their mistakes. They're very present and very aware and very mindful of what's going on around them. And they're looking for how to improve. An excellent person realizes they need to improve. A perfectionist is frustrated that they need to improve. I hope you're seeing the difference between the three mindsets. And we're going to get to the application here in a moment, and I think it'll be quite helpful. Now let's look at the results or the fruit of these three mindsets. I'm going to start with the perfectionist on this one. When you're totally future focused, when you've kind of held yourself hostage to perfection and a perfect future before you can relax, those folks tend to get overwhelmed and burned out. These are people that often hire me as a coach. They're just tired. they've been trying, and they just can't reach the goal, and they can't get it done, and they can't get their people where they want them to be, and they're overwhelmed and they're burned out. They are not going to be happy until everything is perfect and in order. Then you've got people on the other side, the mediocre mindset. They're distracted. They're drifting. They're usually living by their feelings. They wake up and they just don't have a lot of ambition. They're tired, perhaps too, but they're tired from a lethargy. The excellent mindset person, the result they get is they become very focused, very disciplined. Their keyword is practice. They're practicing rising above. They're practicing getting better. They like feedback. They don't mind looking at their mistakes. They don't mind not being perfect. They know that when they see where they're not perfect, where they're not getting it done, where they are making mistakes, that's how they learn. And they're developing a discipline of practicing and acting in the present moment. They're not really past focused. They're not future focused. They're focused on today. They know today is when they can be excellent, when they can make a difference. They define excellence as improvement. It's more about direction, not perfection. Finally, let's look at the feelings or the emotions that tend to travel with these three mindsets. A person with a mediocre mindset is typically filled with regret because they're looking at their failures of the past or their mediocrity of the past. They tend to get a little apathetic and just kind of exist, just kind of going through the motions. And they usually are a little down and a little depressed. They might have moments where they feel good, but they're kind of just halfway. They're just kind of not all in. They're not all out. They lack some commitment. Now, again, we're stereotyping and making this extreme, but what I want you to do is consider yourself. Are there areas of your life where you're a bit mediocre right now, where you've kind of caved in and you're distracted and you're paralyzed and you're coasting and you've kind of resigned to your past performance? If so, you're probably a little apathetic, a little regretful, not real happy. Then there's the perfectionist. Again, I'm stereotyping, but if they're truly not happy until everything is perfect, until everything is finished, until everything is complete without mistakes, then they're going to be frustrated quite often because that's not life. And that's certainly not other people. A perfectionist tends to be really hard on other people and really hard on themselves. And they're disappointed all the time because nothing ever seems to be good enough. Nothing ever seems to be acceptable. So there's a frustration because I'm not reaching that goal. And I'm disappointed because I'm always falling short. That's the perfectionistic mindset. The excellent mindset, I think, is beautiful. It celebrates improvement. It celebrates direction. It even celebrates mistakes when we can learn from them. It's more of a curious mindset, a thinking mindset, a very present mindset. It's a very gracious mindset with other people. It's an encouraging mindset. I want to help people get better. That's what an excellent leader, a leader with an excellent mindset, they're looking for improvement. How can I support? How can I encourage? A perfectionist is typically driving others and driving themselves. And a mediocre mindset person is just kind of giving in and giving up. I hope you see the contrast between those three mindsets. And I want you to take a moment now and to think about what your mindset is and how you currently approach life and issues and problems in your job and other people. Are you a mediocre thinker? Are you an excellent thinker? Or are you a perfectionist? All right, now I want to shift into a different place here. And I'm going to give you some questions to reflect. We're going to have a little bit shorter session today. We're in the last week of the year, and it's a little bit of a holiday. So I'm going to give you some questions here to consider as we start to turn the corner. Here's the first one. Are you and your team mostly in the mediocre mindset, mostly in the excellent mindset, or mostly in the perfectionistic mindset? Just think about yourself. Just some self-reflection there. Which of those mindsets do you display and embrace mostly? I think we're all three in different areas. I think I tend to be a little perfectionistic sometimes. I find myself getting disappointed and frustrated at mistakes instead of learning from them. I can be mediocre about some things and kind of give in and give up. But I would hope that mostly I'm looking to improve and celebrate. Second question. I want us to think a minute about setting goals from each of these mindsets. And which mindset do you think would help people set and achieve goals and accomplish projects? Well, I think it's obvious the mediocre mindset probably doesn't set too many goals because they think the only thing you get from a goal is disappointment. I never reach my goals. I never seem to stick with it. So I've probably given up on most goals. That's probably mediocre mindset. They just don't really set goals that often. They might do some New Year's resolutions and cave in about the first or second week. That's a mediocre mindset. How about the perfectionist? Here's where I think perfectionists get goal obsessed. They set this idealistic, perfect outcome, almost impossible to achieve. But then there's this frustration and disappointment. And there's a sense of pressure. Goals become a nag. Goals become a burden to carry. Goals become something that it's a love-hate with them. Now, let's talk about setting goals from an excellent mindset, which again, you can tell is my preference and what I'm really trying to talk about today. A person setting goals from an excellent mindset says, how can I improve? I might even want to stretch myself to improve really well, maybe set a little bit higher goal. But I set an outcome goal for one purpose, not to determine if I'm going to be happy, but to determine my direction, to determine what I'm going to aim at, what I'm going to focus at. An outcome goal for an excellent person is a target. It's just setting where I'm going to aim, what I'm going to shoot for, how I'm going to plan. It just becomes a tool, not a rule. I'm not setting my whole hope and my happiness and my feeling of satisfaction and completion on perfectly getting that goal accomplished. I'm using the goal as a tool to set my direction, to set my what I'm going to aim at, what I'm going to go for, how to measure my progress. That's what an excellent person does. If you see the difference between the three, which is my hope for today's session, you can see that when you shift from a perfectionist to an excellent mindset, goals become your friends. You can set outcome goals to set your direction and your desire of where you want to go. And then you come back to the day and you set a process goal every day of action. Present, progressive, focused, discipline, habit. It's that tortoise versus the hare. It's the day by day by day by day focus and discipline that wins the game. And the game is won as we change direction and sustain. It's a long term. We don't want to get frustrated. We don't want to get burned out. We don't want to get disappointed. And we don't want it to be distracted and drift. We want to stay on a steady path. That's excellence. And that's a great way to set and accomplish goals. And if you've had some challenges in the past getting your goals completed or dropping your goals or getting frustrated with your goals, you might consider the mindset that you're carrying right now. Third, Which of these three mindsets do you believe would create the best execution and performance? Well, again, a mediocre person gives up and gives in and falls down, and they're just paralyzed by their past. And the perfectionist is frustrated and burned out and disappointed and actually driving other people crazy because they have such a high standard and they don't seem to have any grace as far as mistakes and learning. There's no space to really learn. You're supposed to already be there if you're perfect. And this is the person that's never happy until everything is done. Everything on the list is checked off. Everything is in its place. And so execution and performance typically is not best there because that person is not in the best mindset. They're not relaxed and happy and focused and engaged as well as the person who is in an excellent mindset. An excellent mindset is one of execution, but it's not trying to get it all done right now. And it's not putting these huge expectations on other people. It's sitting down and collaborating and creating agreements with people. How much better could we do it today? How can we progress? What forward steps can we take is what the excellent person asks. Not how can we be perfect? How can we get done? It's how can we move forward? How can we rise above? I think that mindset would create the best performance and execution. And then, which of these three mindsets leads to best team building and morale? If we're trying to do things together, mediocre folks are going to be frustrating to other people because they're not participating. They're dragging everybody else down. They're kind of riding on everybody else's coattails. They have maybe a little bit of an entitlement mentality. The perfectionist is impossible to work with or very difficult to work with because they're so critical. They're never happy with anything. They're never accepting of progress. They always want it complete and done. And they're on your back and in your face, or at least in their minds, they're critical and sour. And the excellent person is celebrating steps forward. Are we improving is the question of the excellent mindset. Are we getting better? What did we learn from that yesterday? We had a hard time. Not we're failing. Well, the only failure would be to give up and to become mediocre or to get unrealistic and become perfectionistic. The excellent person is great at building teams and great at leading teams because they're celebrating. They're celebrating performance. And so finally, our last question for this morning is, what are some practical ways to help shift to an excellent mindset? Well, if you find yourself in the mediocre bucket right now, I think you have to come to a point when you're mediocre to decide if that's the way you want your life to end. I think you look at the outcome and you say, is this acceptable? And I think a mediocre person needs to humble themselves if they want to change and get some help. They need somebody to encourage them. They need someone to question them. They need someone to challenge them. And they need to reach out. Often a mediocre person is kind of in a prison of their own thoughts and their own making. And they need an alternative. If you're in that state of mind right now and you're having some challenges, please reach out to me. I'd love to have an encouraging conversation with you. I want to help mediocre folks say, I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of just going along to get along. I'm ready to do something with excellence. How do you help somebody shift from perfectionism? I think it's through some great questions that help that perfectionist reflect on the fruit of what's happened. Look at your team. Look at the result you're getting. Look at how you feel. How would you be if you weren't overwhelmed, if you weren't burned out, if you weren't frustrated and disappointed? What if you could give up the wrestling and the fighting and the anxiety and start to dance and progress and just live today and enjoy the journey? and not be so fixed on the goal all the time. Goals are great to plan. Goals are great to set direction and a compass, but don't keep looking at the compass. Don't keep looking at the goal. Get back and work the puzzle. Get back to the pieces today. Get back to a place where you can be with people and enjoy people and learn and grow together. I think it's just helping a perfectionist see the contrast between these two things. Once they see themselves, they can start to shift to an excellent mindset. It's one of the first questions we asked when we started, which is the higher goal or the more, maybe the better goal. I think it's excellence. Perfection is not realistic. And mediocrity is just boring and sad. I think excellence is the sweet middle road. So that's really what I have for today. I want to take you to my offers. I've got 3 today. First, I'd be glad to send you those slides, which is really that one slide. So if you've taken some notes, fine. I'd be glad to send you that slide. You can print it out and think about it some more. I've got 3 more articles that I'd be glad to share with you around perfectionism and excellence that will give you some more thoughts and some more things to consider. And finally, if you want to request it, I'd love to have a conversation with you. Maybe you've got some challenges with the team. Maybe they tend to go, you've got team members that tend to go a bit perfectionistic, or you've got others that you're just trying to get up off their backside and get them involved and participating. I help people with those conversations and agreements. That's what I do as a coach. So if you'd like to have a conversation about your current situation, just contact me. The best way to contact me is to email me, Dave Beam at mentordavebeam.com. Also, the other thing I'll send you the next year's schedule and topics, and we'll be opening up the registration of those within the next week on the website. Feel free to go to the website and enjoy all the articles and the past YouTube presentations. But I'm going to call this one to a close this morning. We're going 30 minutes, and next year we're going to have 30-minute presentations. I've decided to back it off to 30 minutes because I think we'll get better participation and people will enjoy something a bit shorter. We've been having these hour-long presentations for 3 years, and I just want to try something different. So with that said, I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you embracing and working on yourself and trying to improve and be excellent. I love to coach people that have a heart to be excellent. And we'll talk to you next time and see you next year. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.